This table was generated automatically from these 12 messy documents, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. What if I told you that most people are only using about 10% of what NotebookLM can actually do? So I'm about to show you 7 use cases that will make you realize you've been thinking way too small about NotebookLM's true potential. Starting with use case 1, which is turning messy research into structured data. Let's break down exactly how I generated that table you saw in the beginning. First, go to your NotebookLM dashboard and open your project. I'm using my AI automation notebook where I've already uploaded my sources. Look at the top right of the screen under the Studio panel. You will see an option labeled Data Table. Click that and NotebookLM will start scanning every single source, pulling out the relevant information, and building you a structured comparison spreadsheet automatically. And look at this result. It instantly created a clean table with columns for tool name, key features, and pricing plans. You can scroll through right here and see that it accurately grabbed the specific details from the PDFs I uploaded. But what if you need specific data points that aren't there? For that, we're going to go back and click the Edit button right here on the Data Table tab. This allows you to define exactly what you need. In the prompt box, describe the columns you want. I'll write, I need columns for monthly cost, difficulty level, and customer support quality, along with the tool name, key features, and pricing plans. And I'll hit Generate, and instantly, it completely restructures the entire table to match that exact query. But to actually work with this data, you need to get it out of NotebookLM. So for that, click the button on the top right to export the spreadsheet to Google Sheets, and the entire table transfers instantly. Now you have a live spreadsheet you can share with your team, update as pricing models change, and actually use for decision making. The key is being specific about what you want. Don't ask for a summary, ask for exact columns. Company name, pricing model, setup time, pros and cons. Whatever matters for your analysis. So that was use case 1, turning raw sources into structured data. But sometimes you don't need a spreadsheet. You need to tell a story, which brings us to use case 2, drafting publication-ready content. With our sources still uploaded, let's turn them into an article you can post anywhere. Go back to the Studio panel and click on the Reports tab. We want to control the output right from the start, so click the edit icon on the blog postcard immediately. This opens the description box. I'll write a thought leadership article focusing on the security vulnerabilities discussed in these reports, use a professional, authoritative tone, and write for a technical audience. Hit Generate, and look at this result. It didn't just summarize the text, it actually synthesized a narrative. Look at that headline, it's punchy and relevant. The structure flows logically from the problem to the solution, and the tone has that specific security terminology from our papers without sounding robotic. You just went from reading PDF files to having a complete publication-ready draft in about 10 seconds. So now you have the structured data and you have the article. But sometimes, before you can explain a topic, you need to actually understand how the concepts connect. Text is great for explanation, but it's terrible for visualization. That brings us to use case 3, generating interactive mind maps. Imagine you are learning a new complex topic and you have a stack of dense papers. Reading them linearly is impossible. You need to see how the concepts actually connect. To do that, all you need to do is upload all your papers to NotebookLM. I've got a folder here full of heavy academic PDFs. Go to the Studio panel, right where we found the data table, but this time, click Mind Map. NotebookLM analyzes every document and creates an interactive visualization showing exactly how these concepts connect. And look at this result. The center node here is supply chain resilience. Connected to that, you see branches for supplier diversification, inventory buffers, and risk assessment. Now click on Supplier Diversification. It expands deeper into strategies, multi-tier risks, and benefits. Select any of those sub-concepts, and NotebookLM immediately pulls up the specific source papers and direct quotes to back it up. This is how you learn complex topics fast. Instead of reading through 40-page documents, you explore connections. When you find a concept you don't understand, click it, and NotebookLM gives you a plain language explanation grounded in your actual sources. This works for academic research, technical documentation, legal case analysis, or strategic planning. The more sources you upload, the richer the map gets. Now we've visualized how the concepts connect, but we need to control exactly how the AI analyzes those connections. That brings us to use case 4, building ultra-detailed AI expert personas. Until early December, you could customize how NotebookLM responded, but you were capped at 500 characters. That is about 3 sentences, which is not nearly enough to build actual expertise into the system. On December 4th, Google quietly increased that limit to 10,000 characters, which is 20 times more space. And that single change allows you to generate results like this. Look at the structure here. It generates a full product manager style decision memo with executive summary, user evidence, feasibility assessment, blind spots, and recommendation. It follows a strict professional format because I told it exactly how to think. To get that same level of depth, start by uploading your research. Then go to the top right, click the settings button, and select Custom. This is where you define the persona. I'll write, you are a senior product manager with 10 years of experience. When analyzing documents, provide decision memos structured as executive summary, user evidence, feasibility, blind spots, and recommendation. Always cite specific data, flag assumptions, and use clear, direct language. But realize this, that instruction I just wrote is only about 300 characters. You have 9,700 left, so use that space to be specific. Define the exact format you want, specify how it should handle uncertainty, tell it what to prioritize. With 10,000 characters, you can build personas that actually think like specialists. The more detailed your persona, the better your output gets. So now you have an AI persona that thinks like an expert, but that analysis is useless if you can't communicate it to a client. That brings us to use case 5, generating client-ready presentations in minutes. Suppose you just finished a research project and your client needs a presentation. Normally, you're looking at hours in Google Slides, manually formatting bullet points and finding images. Instead, start by uploading your research documents. Go to the Studio panel and click on Slide Deck. Then, click the Edit button to give NotebookLM specific instructions. I'll write, create a 10-slide presentation for a marketing executive explaining our competitor analysis findings. Focus on pricing strategy differences and market positioning gaps. Use a clean, professional design. NotebookLM generates a complete presentation, professional design, proper hierarchy, and visual elements all pulled from your sources and properly structured. Export it, make a few edits if you need to, and you are done. But don't stop there. Go back to the Studio panel and click the Edit button on Infographic. In the prompt box, I'll write, create an infographic comparing the 3 competitors across pricing, features, and target audience using a side-by-side layout. Now you've got a slide deck and a supporting visual, both created from the same source documents. And if your client prefers video, click Video Overview in the Studio panel. NotebookLM creates a narrated video with AI hosts discussing your findings while showing relevant visuals on screen.
Okay, let's dive right in. I want to talk about 2 things that on the surface have absolutely nothing in common.
So, what's the big secret? Well, it's not about tech, and it's definitely not about staying hydrated.
This workflow turns raw research into 3 polished deliverables: slide deck for the meeting, infographic for the report, and video for internal sharing. All from one notebook. You have the documentation and you have the processes, but sending a PDF to your team doesn't mean they actually read it, and it definitely doesn't mean they understand it. That brings us to use case 6, building custom training simulators. With your training manuals, compliance docs, or process guides uploaded, open the Studio panel. Here, you will see specific options for flashcards and quizzes. But don't just click the button yet. If you leave it on default, you get basic definition checks, but we actually want to test applications. So click the Edit button on flashcards, set the difficulty to hard, and use the custom prompt box to change the logic. I'll write, create scenario-based flashcards. Present a real situation where an employee must choose between process A or B. Do not test definitions. Test decision-making. And look at the difference. Instead of simply checking if you memorize the rule, it presents a complex scenario. It forces you to apply the documentation to a real problem and determine the correct decision. It forces the user to think. Every card includes an Explain button. Click it, and NotebookLM breaks down the correct decision, citing the exact page in your training manual where that rule exists. You can do the same for quizzes. Ask it to generate questions that require combining multiple concepts to solve a single problem. Then, simply share the notebook with your team. Everyone accesses the same interactive training tools, automatically generated from your docs and grounded in your actual rules. We've talked about analyzing documents you already have, but what if you don't have the documents yet? What if you are starting from zero? That brings us to use case 7, the autonomous deep research agent. NotebookLM added a feature called Deep Research back in November. However, do not confuse this with a Google search, as it isn't a search engine. It is an autonomous agent. When you search Google, you get a list of links you have to read. With Deep Research, the AI creates a plan and actually does the reading for you. Let's look at an example. I'll open a blank notebook with 0 sources, select Deep Research from the dropdown right here, and type a complex goal. I'll write, research the pros and cons of implementing a 4-day work week, specifically looking for long-term productivity studies and financial impact. Now, watch what happens. It immediately generates a multi-step research plan. It goes out to the live web, scans hundreds of articles, filters out the clickbait, reads the technical reports, and synthesizes everything. And this actually changes everything. You used to have to bring the data to the AI. Now the AI goes out, finds the data, validates it, and brings it to you. It turns NotebookLM from a library into a librarian. So you now understand the true potential of what NotebookLM can actually do. But knowing these advanced features won't help if you are using the tool wrong. I've seen people try everything I just showed you and fail because they skipped the basics. The video on your screen covers the foundation everyone misses. In just a few minutes, I'll show you how to use NotebookLM better than 99% of people out there. It is on the screen right now. Click it, and I'll see you there.